Tom Bower is writing a new book called Betrayal. This book is about Harry and Meghan. Some parts of the book are already out. In these parts, Bower says some things that have made Harry and Meghan very mad. Here are 25 shocking things Tom Bower says in his new book. One of the biggest claims in the book is about what the royal family privately thought. The book says that Queen Camilla told a friend she thought Meghan had brainwashed Harry. This was not just a small complaint. It was a big worry for some parts of the royal family. They thought Harry was not thinking for himself anymore. They believed Meghan was making most of his choices. Queen Camilla said Harry was brainwashed by Meghan. Members of the royal family felt that Meghan changed Harry's personality. He used to be a fun guy everyone liked. But then he became a serious guy who seemed to dislike everyone and everything. If this claim is true, it shows how much they suspected Meghan in the palace. Many people agree that Harry is not the same fun person he used to be. Meghan Markle was asked to speak at the One Young World Summit. This event was about helping young people and being a good leader. It was a good cause, a big stage, and people came to be inspired. But Tom Bower's new book, Betrayal, which was also in the Times newspaper, says Meghan had a different idea. She didn't stick to the plan. She spent 10 minutes talking only about herself and how she became famous. She said the word "I" almost 50 times in a speech that was supposed to be about helping others. She said, "Proof that I was there and proof that I belonged, because the truth was I wasn't sure that I belonged. I was so nervous. I doubted myself and I wondered if I was good enough to even be there, if what I was doing in the world, albeit important and meaningful as far as I saw it, was it deserving." When Ella Robertson, whose father started the summit, read Meghan's speech on the teleprompter, Ella said, "She's it." In the book, Tom Bower makes a very surprising claim. After Harry and Meghan's honeymoon in 2018, Harry, William, and their wives had tea. Everything was fine until Meghan got mad at Prince William. The most surprising part was that Harry was there. He just sat and drank his tea while things got out of hand. He did nothing to calm Meghan down or fix the situation. This happened while William had already been worried about Meghan for a long time. He had told Harry before they got engaged that things were moving too fast with the American actress. But Harry didn't listen to his older brother's advice. He went ahead with the wedding. Because of Meghan's sudden actions, Prince William started to keep his distance from Meghan and even from his own brother. The book says a lot about how Meghan thought the royal family was in the way of her dream to become a big global star. The book says she believed the only way to get global power was to leave the royal family with Harry. The book says Meghan wanted to be a big deal in media, fashion, and as someone who could influence others. But some people say that all the time spent on managing her image, making herself a celebrity brand, and the public drama made it seem less like helping the royals and more like a never-ending Hollywood show. As for Harry, he became very confused. The book shows him as someone caught between two worlds, his royal family and the life he made with Meghan. Harry is said to worry that when his brother, Prince William, becomes king, William might take away Harry's title as Duke of Sussex. This worry reportedly comes from what happened when King Charles.What took away Prince Andrew's royal titles. Harry fears that something similar could happen to him later. The book also says Harry is worried he will be pushed out of royal circles when William becomes king. This is likely true. He will probably lose his Royal Highness title and his Prince title. If this ever happens, it would be a very big change in royal history. It would be like being kicked out of the family group chat forever, making him a regular person even though he still has royal blood. Tom Bower says Meghan's team was always watching what the royal family was doing. They reportedly used this to their benefit. When Princess Catherine was going to be at a big royal show on November 19th, where many pictures would be taken, Meghan's publicists reportedly saw the date. They planned to release Meghan's Netflix show trailer at the same time. Tom Bower says this was part of a plan to take over royal news and make people look at Meghan instead. In Bower's opinion, Harry and Meghan were quickly running out of options in Hollywood. He thinks these actions were not about being confident, but about being desperate to stay famous no matter what. Harry reportedly felt the royal family left him alone, especially with his safety. He felt like the system that once kept him safe suddenly said, "Good luck out there." Harry says he and Meghan felt left behind. This was a big reason they moved to California. He also said he felt stuck by his family and the bad environment he felt he was living in. But some people in the palace say it was just what happens when you stop doing royal duties. This disagreement became one of the main problems between Harry and the royal family. From the first day Harry showed Meghan to William and Kate and the rest of the royal family, Tom Bower says that William and Kate saw Meghan as a threat. They believed Meghan thought she was meant for more than just royal life in London. She reportedly felt sad that Harry had a very small chance of becoming king, and that she would not become queen. In other words, they felt her plan was to join the royal family and eventually become the queen of the United Kingdom. However, that did not happen because Harry has a very small chance of becoming king, so that path was not possible for her. They also thought she was using Harry's weaknesses from his hard childhood. These weaknesses included his past with drinking, using drugs, getting help after his mother Diana died, and his past relationships that didn't work out. According to this idea, when Meghan saw this situation, she acted more like someone who would cause problems instead of someone who would help the royal family. Just before the One Young World Summit, Meghan reportedly did something very bold. Tom Bower wrote that her team supposedly demanded to control everything very strictly. They even stopped reporters from coming into the hall. Protesters were kept far away so they couldn't cause problems. At most charity events, people gather outside to welcome their favorite famous guests. But at this event, because of Meghan and her team, no crowds were allowed outside. Only friendly photographers were let in. Maybe Meghan was worried about people booing her. The reporters who were allowed were carefully chosen. One of the only writers allowed in was royal expert Omid Scobie. It was surprising that what was supposed to be a charity event turned into something like a Hollywood movie premiere. Nothing about it looked like real global charity work because everything seemed to be carefully planned press coverage. People watching on TV might have thought the summit was well organized. But behind the scenes, things reportedly did not go as planned because Meghan came with her own rules, and they had to be followed exactly. Tom Bower said that after the Netflix and Spotify deals ended, it seemed like Meghan was in big trouble. They needed to pay at least $3 million each year for security. Also, they were getting less money from speeches and deals. This meant they were quickly running out of money. It shows that Harry and Meghan are losing money. The millions they made from Harry's books spare, and the first Netflix deal are getting smaller. Even their charity, the Archewell Foundation, saw its money go down a lot, from $5.3 million to $2.1 million. Money given by good-hearted people was also not enough to pay for their costs. In fact, their spending reportedly reached $3.9 million, but they only got $1.2 million in donations. This caused them to stop some of their charity work. They gave these jobs to the Parents Together Foundation. They said this was a success, but some people saw it as them giving up on charity work. Meghan Markle's lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard, launched a product that was called Raspberry Fruit Spread. Meghan's brand said it was one of the best products ever. However, some people noticed something interesting. According to the book, it wasn't called jam because the mix was too watery to be called jam, so instead it was called fruit spread. Some people joked that this was a polite way for companies to say it was jam but watery. It turns out it's not really jam. By food rules, it's actually a spread. For jam, there usually needs to be equal parts sugar and fruit. Most people don't do that. This jar cost $12. Many people felt this price was too high for something that didn't taste any better than regular jam. The problem is she's charging $12 a jar for this. And you can get jam that tastes just as good, if not better, for $4. You're paying all that extra money so you can get Meghan Markle to send you a stupid little card that reads "Enjoy" in her lame little calligraphy on one side, and "As ever" on the other, with I don't know what that is, if it's a royal seal or what, but it's got a palm tree on it, so I'm guessing not. To help sell the product, her sales team reportedly told people it came from Meghan's own kitchen. They said her children watched with excitement as she made it. People started to wonder if customers really wanted to pay high prices for something that sounded more like a fun kitchen project from a website like Pinterest. One of the most surprising claims by Tom Bower is about Paris Fashion Week. The book says Meghan was not even invited. She reportedly called the designer Pier Paolo Piccioli herself with an idea. In this idea, she supposedly said she would show up at the fashion show as a surprise if the brand paid for her costs. What was shocking was that the costs she was talking about were around $250,000. Pier Paolo, the person Meghan asked for money, later said on TV that Meghan was not invited to the show. He said she invited herself. It wasn't like Balenciaga was begging Meghan Markle to be there. She just said, "Hey, I would love to go." And they were like, "Sure, it will give us some publicity. We'll generate some interest." That moment would have been very embarrassing because the whole situation suddenly sounded like someone saying, "Hi, can I come to your party if you pay for everything?" It felt less like a cool celebrity invite and more like a teenage girl going to prom and asking her prom date to buy her the fancy dress. The Invictus Games was one of Prince Harry's most famous projects. It gave soldiers who were hurt a chance to do sports. Even Queen Elizabeth came to start the games, showing she fully supported them. Oh, really? Please, boom. But the book says some people started calling the event something else. The Meghan Games. Why? Because during the games, instead of people focusing on the soldiers competing, attention often went to Meghan's clothes, her appearances, and times when her picture was taken. Instead of news about the soldiers, many news stories focused on Meghan arriving in clothes that caused talk. Some people say that the attention slowly moved away from the soldiers and onto Meghan herself. To check if this is true, many people ask a simple question. Can you name the team that won the most medals last year? Most people cannot. Meghan tried to change her image a lot with a magazine cover for Harper's Bazaar. The goal was to show her as a strong and grown-up global leader starting a new part of her life. However, the article had one small, awkward detail. When the reporter came to Meghan's house to get information for the interview, a butler reportedly announced, "Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex." The problem was that the announcement was made to an empty room. Tom Bower's new book says that people watching an event in New York noticed something strange. Harry and Meghan both looked tired. This might have been because they had many public events and media appearances. At one point, they seemed to be arguing. During this tense moment, Meghan was seen pushing Harry's hand away. Of course, couples argue, and it's normal to disagree in any marriage. But when you are one of the most photographed couples in the world, even a small moment like that can quickly become global gossip. Harry's safety when he visited the UK was much harder than he let on. Tom Bower says Harry was shaken after the government office said no to giving him armed police to protect him in Manchester or London. This decision reportedly made him feel unsafe and, in his own words, abandoned. But this is where Bower's description gets interesting. Even with all the complaints about danger, a whole train car was saved for his trip from London to Manchester. And yet, even with that space away from the public, Harry still felt uncomfortable. Bower shows Harry as someone who wanted people to feel sorry for him for feeling unsafe, while also being surrounded by arrangements most people could only dream of. And according to Bower, Harry was basically saying the UK was too dangerous to visit, while still choosing to visit it anyway. Tom Bower's new book says that when Harry went back to the UK, he gave £1.1 million of his own money to charity. Most royals just show up to support charities instead of giving actual money. But Harry made sure to publicly announce a big, specific amount of money he gave to a charity. This immediately made people wonder why, because in royal culture, you simply don't brag about your charity work like that. And Bower doesn't hold back on what he thinks about it either. The book says that to many people, it looked less like a kind act and more like what Bower calls mitigation money. This means a very expensive try to fix a very bad reputation. After almost 2 years apart, Harry finally met his father, King Charles.I. Breaking news from London. Prince Harry was seen arriving at Clarence's house today for a meeting with his father, King Charles. It's their first reunion in more than a year and a half. The two have been estranged since Harry and his wife Meghan left royal life, moving to California. For most people, a reunion like that would usually be full of feelings. People expected tears, hugs, honest talks, and some way for father and son to make up. But what reportedly happened surprised many people watching. Tom Bower confirms that the meeting between the two reportedly only lasted 54 minutes and was described as formal and not close. No pictures were shared, and there were no obvious warm family moments. Instead, people close to the family reportedly compared the meeting to something more like an official appointment, rather than a heartfelt reunion between a father and his son. Meghan's lifestyle TV show, Love Meghan, reportedly had trouble getting popular, even though she tried hard. Tom Bower wrote that the show was meant to make her famous again as a lifestyle expert, but the book claims it was ranked around 383rd on Netflix's list. With Love, Meghan came in at number 385. The show only got 5.3 million views since it started in March, which is a very low number. For a project that was supposed to make Meghan's brand and influence strong again, that ranking was not very good news. Because the show didn't do well, Netflix reportedly decided to stop it for good. From a business point of view, they couldn't keep spending money on a project that wasn't bringing in a lot of viewers. Meghan's search for importance reportedly got to a point where she started going to events she had ignored before. One example in the book talks about a charity event hosted by Kevin Costner. The year before, Meghan reportedly didn't seem very interested in going to the event. However, later she showed up at the gathering wearing jewelry that was reportedly worth $325,000. Well, fun fact, Meghan wore a reportedly $300,000 worth of jewelry to this event. Charity events are made to help people who need it. But Meghan's very shiny jewelry made people look at her clothes instead of the cause. For someone who talks so much about being kind and equal, some people are saying that how she looked seems a little out of touch here. People who criticized her definitely noticed this. Many thought it meant she suddenly realized that being seen by the public is very important when you want to make yourself famous again. It looked like she had started going to events she once didn't want to attend just to get public attention back. During Paris Fashion Week, Meghan reportedly stayed at the very fancy Plaza Athénée Hotel. The book claims her room cost about $22,000 each night. This kind of life certainly makes her seem more glamorous as someone who influences people's lifestyles. However, critics quickly pointed out something that didn't make sense. They said that the idea of her being a relatable person who makes jam in her home kitchen doesn't quite match the idea of someone staying in a luxury hotel room that costs thousands of dollars. At several public events, Meghan reportedly wore jewelry that used to belong to Princess Diana. But it's that blue sparkly ring on her finger that really stood out. It's the same gem Meghan wore at her wedding party in 2018. And at the time, a Kensington Palace official confirmed to ET that the aquamarine ring once belonged to Diana. Every time this happens, it naturally makes news and people compare her to Diana. However, some people say that always linking herself to Diana's memory has become a powerful way to get attention during Meghan's public appearances. Tom Bauer says that during the 2025 Invictus Games in Vancouver, Meghan reportedly demanded that people call her ma'am and Harry sir. These kinds of titles are not usually for regular people. They are usually for people who have done very important things in their area and community, not for people trying to become popular. Even the people who organized the games were reportedly tired. They complained about the high costs, like private jets and security, which were paid for by others and not by Harry himself. During the event, not many people came. Reports said there were only 43 people who paid to watch wheelchair basketball. There were also claims that empty seats were filled with people who were just there for pictures. The main focus, which should have been on the soldiers, reportedly shifted to Meghan and her famous friends. Tom Bauer also said that Harry and Meghan reportedly plan to come back to the UK for the 2026 Birmingham Invictus Games. So, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the two little Hewers from Montecito, they're going crawling back to the UK. Apparently, in July, they're going over there for the Invictus Game. During this time, Harry is trying very hard to get King Charles to open the event. This could allow Meghan and their children to get a lot of media attention. However, Tom Bauer thinks this plan is unlikely because people might protest. Also, the damage Meghan and Harry have done from supposedly using their titles for their own gain makes such a return very difficult. So there you have it, 25 surprising claims from Tom Bauer's new book, Betrayal. Which of these things shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.